Hello, so we are going to be talking about the negative confessions. I found a lot of the information on this on history.org. It was a really good um, article in there about it, and most of everything I got came from there. A little bit came from the textbook, but not a whole lot. So to get started, we'll talk a little bit more about the 42 confessions. The negative confession, also known as a declaration of innocence, is a list of 42 confessions that one soul would have to stand in front of Osiris for judgment once you were deceased. Depending on how truthfully you answered these confessions, the god Osiris would weigh your heart with the feather of a Mayat to decide how you would spend your afterlife. The Egyptian Book of the Dead was only for those who could afford one. I feel like there could have been a way that maybe families could share one so that everybody had a Book of the Dead, um, because it was such a big thing for them to have this because they truly believed that in your afterlife you would be judged and you would either cease to exist depending on what happened with your heart, or you would live in paradise for all of eternity. So I feel like there could have been a way for families maybe to have family tombs and to have one Book of the Dead for that tomb, or maybe communities could come together and have a tomb for that community. Something. I feel like there could have been something done for that. So we'll see. The Book of the Dead was used as a guide for the afterlife. So when spirits would awaken their tomb, they would go to the Book of the Dead and it would tell them where they should go next. So once they went to the Book of the Dead and they kind of reminded of who they were and looked around and they had all of their belongings in there and they felt comfortable, um, there are some other confessions that I feel like could be contradictory in certain situations. Like number 12, I have made no one weep. Well, in some situations, you don't always know if you've made someone upset or cried. Um, Maybe you upset them that you don't know, and they could have cried, away from you, and you don't know that. Number 13, I have not eaten the heart. I really don't understand this one too much. If you've eaten a heart, then you've acted in violence, I feel like. I'm going to have to look into that one a little bit more. I didn't see anything about that in the articles that I had read, so I kind of want to look to see exactly what that one means. Number 19, I have not been angry without just cause. How would others know that you were angry for a just cause? Some people think the most minute thing is a just cause. So, I mean, you might think that you're upset for a reason, but other people may not think that it's a good reason. So I guess that would be up to Osiris to determine if you had a good reason for that, I guess. Number 22, I have not polluted myself. Well, if you read through the articles and stuff about this, it was okay for people to drink at festivities and get as drunk as they want and drink as much as they want. But then one of the confessions says, I have not polluted myself. But either if you drink at a festivity or a festival or anything of that matter, you're still getting drunk and you're still polluting yourself no matter if it's at home on your own time. So, I don't know. Those were a couple that I felt were that kind of were contradictory, I guess. The Egyptians really had strong beliefs in the afterlife. They valued a person's individuality. They cared deeply about their afterlife. Their tombs and funerals showed this to be true. They had many inscriptions on the walls. There were monuments for the individuals. Um, they had things in there that were things that they loved, like their furniture or blankets and pillows and different things that they really cherished of different materials and things like that. They would have inscriptions about their life and their accomplishments and personal items, you know, which I already spoke about. Um, Family of the deceased would be sure to take great care of their family, even in death. They went to great lengths to make sure their family member lived a very comfortable afterlife. I wanted to talk a little bit more, though, about um, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So many people during this time, thought highly of this book and really felt like it was something that um, completed them as who they were, and they, really looked to this to have this book for their afterlife. So when I read that only certain people could afford one, I honestly thought when I originally was reading this that um, this was just a book that I guess everybody had, or maybe it was put in their tomb by family members and then maybe taken out so that they would have it for the next family member. But apparently it stays in their tomb forever. Um, I'm not really 100% sure on that. I was reading through it trying to find more information about that, but I didn't um, find that exact answer. But I still feel like if it was so important, then everybody should have had one. And there could have been ways to make sure that each family member or community member had one of these to make sure that their afterlife was just as good as their neighbors. If for some reason your heart weighed more than the Mayat feather, I don't know what happened to that slide. I had a slide about this, unless I skipped over it. Or maybe accidentally deleted it somehow. I don't know. But if it weighed more than the feather, then your heart was eaten by a monster, and then your soul would cease to exist. If your heart weighed less than the feather, then you would be able to go on to your paradise afterlife with no problems and live there forever in your, wonderful paradise afterlife. So what happened to those that didn't have this book and didn't know where to go? Did they just stay in their tombs forever? Like, I don't know. I have a lot of questions on how they thought things would happen for those people, or what they thought would happen to those individuals that didn't have a book or couldn't afford this book. That was kind of one of the most intriguing things about this. The whole thing to me was very interesting. I learned a lot about this type of thing in Egypt and how they felt about the afterlife. I was always interested in the way they preserved the dead, making mummies, putting them into tombs, having grand funerals for them, and basically their tomb was like a house or their home for their afterlife. So I always was really interested in learning about that. So that is one reason why I wanted to do my presentation and essay on this particular part of it. So, what do you guys, how do you guys think that they could have made sure everybody had a Book of the Dead in the afterlife? That was the main thing I could find in this, uh, sorry about that, in this story that I could kind of argue a little bit about and try to figure out how to um, how they could have made that available for everybody. So what do you guys think? How could they have made the Book of the Dead available for all the community members that felt this way or had the same beliefs as those that were able to afford to have one of these books for their afterlife, and showing them where to go and leading them to Osiris? So let me know what you think.